And when you think about Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin was willed into existence because humanity was searching for perfect money, and the
Mm,
internet came around and it created this global unconscious and global conscious. And within that global unconscious, the need for perfect money began to take form.
mm,
And the cypherpunks who were hacking away, trying to create something like internet money for 20 years, kept at it. And the memes were flowing and the
mm,
ideas were flowing. And then finally in 2009, it dropped. I do make a bit of a joke by saying that the SETI at Home project, which was in the 90s, where a lot of the distributed computer network application was designed to capture radio frequencies from outer space to search for intelligent life. And anyone could download that program. And I did it myself when I was on the internet back in the 90s. And I joke kind of that the Bitcoin idea for the Bitcoin protocol kind of seeped in from
mm,
alien intelligence and percolated into the cypherpunk's brain. So it comes from alien intelligence, and it leaked into our domain through the SETI at Home project, and that global unconscious was stirred, and thoughts were had, and then the question is: it Bitcoin created or was it discovered? I think for me, it was discovered. It was something that was always there since the beginning of the universe, and we finally discovered it, and we now are in the age of Bitcoin. And of course, in El Salvador here, we're in the age of Bukele, where President Bukele has made Bitcoin legal tender. And we see what happens in the country when a president embraces Bitcoin, understands Bitcoin, is fully orange pilled, and understands the applications of it and how it relates to society at large and how it relates to culture. And so that's why we feel privileged to be living here, because we're now living the orange pill life in El
mm.
Salvador. And so I think that brings us up to date.
Hello and welcome to Crypto IQ. In today's video, early Bitcoin investor Max Kaiser breaks down why he thinks Bitcoin is perfect money.
I think with words and Bitcoin, what I focus on is less about, let's say, markets and pricing markets in units of money. I think more in terms of price discovery.
Mm,
So for me, price discovery is really the most fascinating part of markets. And it's the process wherein players in the market come together and they decide on an equally beneficial, mutually acceptable price, despite coming to that process, coming to that interaction with wildly different, disparate expectations and backgrounds, and that that price is agreed upon. And the goal for me, I think, would be perfect price discovery, which would be absolutely frictionless price discovery. For example, photosynthesis to me is frictionless price discovery. It's
mm,
plants are turning into oxygen, um, carbon into oxygen essentially on the photosynthetic behavior of the green leaf. And that's a perfect market. It's a frictionless market, that you could say.
mm,
And I think with Bitcoin, with perfect money, it brings you to a place where we can experience those types of perfect markets intercommunally with each other. And I think we're seeing the rise of that. I think that would represent the Bitcoin singularity.
mm,
When our our global unconscious kind of joins and goes through the portal
mm,
into this place where all thoughts are overlapping perfectly, and we're having a certain epiphany and
mm,
rapturous union with Satoshi. I think that's what
mm,
Bitcoin ultimately takes us to. The idea of money and property and wealth actually gets disintermediated completely. And you end up with just a state of being, which is what has been intuited by mystics and shamans and religious folks for eons from the beginning of time. There's always been this idea that we can enter a space of shamanistic space of union with the mystical. And I think Bitcoin is a way for us to get there by collapsing all price discovery to zero and by unifying our collective unconscious in a way that takes us through the Bitcoin singularity portal. So with gold, you have the ability to be free, to walk anywhere. I think you can go anywhere in the world. If I have gold, they'll take it. That's the great thing about gold. Flash forward to Bitcoin. Bitcoin does everything that gold and money we expect it to do, except it does it better. It does it in the digital age. It's more secure. It's more portable. Everything that we talk about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin represents the long search for perfect money in that sense. And as a result, it has caused massive nervous, neurological problems in people who are incapable of handling this idea of perfect money. Again, so you have someone like a Sam Bankman-Fried who looks at the quote unquote crypto market and becomes the biggest crook in history. And then you have somebody like a Michael Saylor or a President Bukele who looks at it and says, this is actually a way to help or engineer our lives and our economy in ways that are going to benefit everybody, right? So it has this is where we're at now with Bitcoin. It's cleaving the society. I don't like to throw in biblical references really, because it's contentious and everybody throws a fit. But nevertheless, the literature in various religions is outstanding at times. And you learn a lot from reading books like the Bible. And one of the things that Jesus talked about was the path narrows. Right? People are saying, why is it getting harder and harder for me to get into heaven, Jesus? Shouldn't it be wide open and we can all just disco our way in? He's like, no, actually the path narrows. You have to, once you start a virtuous path, you have to practice your virtue and become even more virtuous. Today's virtue doesn't work tomorrow. You have to be virtuous every day. And so with Bitcoin, similarly, once you get the Bitcoin meme and once it's in your mind and it's kicking around and rearranging your brain, it doesn't stop. You don't wake up tomorrow and like, well, that Bitcoin thing was interesting, but I'm going to start crocheting now and making puppets for dogs. No, it's still working in your brain, whether you want it or not. Right. So therefore, the point is that we're at a point where there's no turning back, for humanity. Not to be overly dramatic, but I think that given the current state of affairs around the world, and with the fiat money machine now going into hyperbolic overdrive, and all the excesses that were brought on by fiat money, all of the malinvestments that are made possible through the money printers has created a dystopian nightmare. And so this is sadly for the Zoomers, the Gen Zs out there. I feel kind of bad for them because they're walking into the buzzsaw of probably the worst financial social disaster in 1,000 years. For us boomers, we're like, oh, well, we had a great 40 years, whatever. But for the Zoomers and the millennials, though, it's a dire situation. So I would encourage the younger generations to load up on Bitcoin, because that is definitely a way to create a bulwark against what I perceive to be a growing cascade of interlocking and reinforcing problems.
Do you agree with Max's thoughts on a Bitcoin singularity? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.